Okay, now can we open the meeting? Everyone in favor?
Aye. Sean, you in favor?
Aye, yes.
Great.
Okay, as everyone, did
It's
everyone?
7:57. Meeting started at 7:57.
Okay,
Okay, I'm going to do a share screen. And, okay. I will just kind of minimize this and, sorry guys, just share screen with the agenda. Okay,
okay.
can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Okay, does everyone remember the minutes from the last time we met?
No,
Did you get comments from people, Marlene?
Everybody was fine with them. Whatever comments I got, I integrated into the final version.
Okay, then can we move to approve the minutes?
yeah, I make a motion to approve the minutes. What
I
minutes, what month were they?
Geez, must have been February.
It must have been
February.
February, yeah.
It's either
Yeah.
January or
Yes.
February. I know we were sick. I think we tried to have a meeting in February and it didn't happen because of sickness. We
Oh.
couldn't get a quorum.
Oh.
Or the door was locked or something.
It doesn't matter, Gail.
Yeah,
It just-
okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So everyone approves the minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Do we have any residents for comments? Any residents present?
Hang on, I'll tell you in a sec. I have to, gee, how do I do that now? I actually have to stop sharing the screen
Let me check.
and look into, you know,
No. No
can
attendees.
I make you
No,
co-host?
No, just let's go on.
Yes,
Please.
fine. No attendees. I can just see who's attending.
You can? Okay, I'm
Yep.
sorry. Great.
Okay. Correspondence is the first attachment. Can you get up attachment 1? It's an email I had from Kelly Sousa, who had asked about trees on the Boston Post Road
I
around the
think
high school.
these are all the things that, all the attachments that Courtney attached. Do you know what number it is?
Number 1.
45 attachments?
It was number 1. So I can describe it to you. There you
Is
are.
it?
Yes.
Kelly Sousa?
Kelly Sousa
There we go.
had originally emailed us about planting trees near the high school, but as you remember that, the Mamaroneck High School, but as you remember that turned out not to be a good location. She's very happy with the trees at Harbor Island Park, but she came back with another idea, which is could we plant daffodils along the Boston Post Road? I'm not sure that we're the daffodil committee, but I would like, even though this was last November, I'd like to respond to her. Is that something that the village would be interested in doing? Or would we need?
It's pages 1 through 6 of the attachment.
Yeah,
That's the thread. And I don't know. We can check. I mean, because Dan isn't able to participate. So wait a minute. Let's
No,
see.
he is. He's back.
Okay. So I don't know if that's something we can do. He's an attendee, so he needs to be either recognized or promoted.
okay.
I
Nora,
don't know, but we can follow up.
You will, okay, can you help
I will
me
follow up.
with the follow-up?
Okay, so for me to recognize him, I have to exit the share screen and get him there. So I'm going to do that. Okay. I know he's showing up as
There he
here, but I'm not seeing him.
He's
He's
muted.
there.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
yeah,
I'm here now.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
very
Thank
good.
you for your patience.
Dan, did you hear the question about daffodils with the village? have-
I heard there was a request to plant daffodils. So to,
Well,
so
perhaps
this
I
is
can
by
follow
the,
up. Who would be the person to talk to about this?
so is the location, the So,
She just said along the Boston Post Road. I think she's seen it in other towns and she liked it. And I have to admit, having watched spring rather close up this year, it was nice when flowers came up.
yeah, I mean, I can talk to Barry. I'll also talk to the Conservancy because
Okay.
they're
Oh, that's a
very much,
great idea.
yeah, they're very, I don't want to say possessive, but they're, motivated, interested in what goes on in the vicinity of the park.
Okay. That's
So-
good. So we'll get back to you about that. Thank you. And the next attachment, which is number 2,
Yeah, I've got it
Um,
here.
is a letter from Stuart Tiekerd with a list of recommendations. He wants a list of trained citizen pruners, which is a good idea. I've never registered as one, even though I've been to all the workshops and prune furiously. He wants a list of trees pruned by citizen pruners. I'll come back to that. He wants a list of significant trees and heritage trees. Actually, subsequently, we're talking about how we actually have the beginning of the list. So we're going to be putting that one together, which, I mean, they're interchangeable the way we've been using them. As far as the list of trees that the pruners have pruned, personally, I don't see any point in it. It's just one more piece of paper. When I'm pruning, I prune if I see a tree needs it. And the fact that I've pruned it once doesn't mean, since it's young, that it's not going to need it again next year. So I don't see what it would accomplish to just have one more list that we have to keep track of. Does anyone else have thoughts about that?
When I prune, and I know when Wendy prunes, we tend to prune like a street. And I do see there could be value in keeping a list of when, a street, like when we went down a street and pruned the trees on it. Just so that, and if that was made like on let's say a Google spreadsheet, then we could all just look at it and know, oh, that was done recently, I'm gonna go somewhere else. Just a thought.
I've noticed that Stuart actually, when he does prune, he sends the information to you guys.
So do I.
Yeah, so I think that's the list. That would be it. Because
I think
somebody
it'll
has
have to
to be
be-
in charge of maintaining it.
Yeah, but if you're gonna prune a tree, I think it has to be tied to an inventory, so you know which, just saying a tree on Palmer Avenue doesn't
Well,
necessarily,
yeah.
isn't that specific. You have to have an inventory of some sort.
So maybe we can call it a premature suggestion. I don't think that, pruning a tree this fall, there were trees that I pruned a little bit because you're not supposed to over prune them. And I know we're going to go back and prune next year. So having it on a list isn't going to save me any repruning. To me, it's a lot of paperwork, but we can, if we ever have an inventory, we can come back to it. Is that
That's reasonable.
okay?
Okay, moving right along.
Okay, we also had the response there of the village manager, which says what he does maintain. It's actually attachment 3.
Okay. So it says I'm sorry, attachment 3, okay. Is that this?
No, that's still Stuart.
Okay. This is
There.
4.
That's 4. Okay, I don't know where 3 is. I know that 3 did answer what he keeps a list of and what he doesn't.
Maybe
Two and
this. Hold on.
2 and 3 are the same. The note from
Here,
Jerry is page 6.
This is,
Of the PDF.
I'm sorry, this is Jerry's response to Stuart, right here.
Oh, okay, this is what he does.
Yeah. And
Okay,
below it is the initial email from Stuart. Okay, so
Okay.
I think we're on to number 4.
okay.
Sorry.
Number 4.
This is very jumpy.
Actually, okay, but it's not what we're talking about. Under old business, the first thing is an update on the tree ordinance, which actually, well, Nora, you can explain what happened. It got through a work session and is going to be referred for public hearing, is that?
So we have a meeting on Monday and we think there's a final draft. The it's draft number 20. We spent 2 work sessions going over all the comments, both tree committee comments, the public's comments, and then the board of trustees comments. And we think we have a final draft, and hopefully on Monday, we'll be scheduling a public hearing for September.
Okay,
That's the goal.
okay. So it's probably September. It's September for work session. And something that is just on this list as part of the tree ordinance that I'm going to do is to develop a list, revise the list of species, and also write up the procedures we go through when choosing. Watering program began June 22nd, which was the Monday, which is great. I've seen the bags on the trees. I've seen the watering truck filling them. We're in business. I think everything is good with that. It's a great program. Now, I'm sorry? No. Now, under tree maintenance issues, these have been piling up. Some of them we don't have pictures of. Back in the fall, we received a request.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Bev. There's a lot of background noise, so if people are not speaking, if you could mute, it would be very helpful. It's very hard to hear you, Bev.
Okay. Actually, some of these are questions for Jerry. And Dan, I don't know if you know the answer. We had a request last fall about an evergreen that Con Ed had done a V-cut on. She wanted it assessed, 1533 Raleigh Road. Do you know about that, or do I save that for Jerry?
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Okay, that's fine. Now, at our last regular meeting, 214 Delancey, Gail, this is someone you knew. Were the branches pruned back with a 6-foot clearance? It's on Delancey. Oh, you're muted. Just shake your head or nod your head. Do you know
I
if,
have to look it up on Google Map right now just to make sure it's the place that I'm thinking. 214
okay. So,
Delancey.
It was pruned.
Yeah,
I think
it
we
was
talked about it
pruned.
at a previous meeting.
Yeah, that was pruned.
okay.
Thanks, Marlene.
Bloomdale Avenue, Gail, you reported a severe 601 to 699 severely rotted base. Did you ever hear that anything was done about that tree?
I don't know if that was taken care of. That's in Orienta.
Okay,
And I could probably walk by on one of my morning walks and check it out.
you can do that, but I'm also just not checking it off, and I'll send this list to Jerry and ask if the status of the trees, I guess.
Okay.
564, this is attachment 4. This is one that I have just recently noted.
Do you want me to,
Yeah, since we
Yeah.
have, sure, if you could show
attachment
it.
4?
Yeah, 4.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably have some free time tomorrow, so I can drive around and follow up on some of these items.
Okay, that would be great. This one I know has not been done because I photographed it today. And it is one that had lost, it's in the median. It lost the major branch on the street side some time ago. There's just there's also a photograph here. So there are 2 photographs. But it's okay, I'll just describe. So it has this gouge in it. However, it also has, as I recall, it has obvious rot in it. And it has a crack in it. Now the crack is going over the grass as opposed to over the street, but people do walk there. So I feel that it's hazardous. It needs to come out, but I feel as if it is posing some hazard. So it should come because people do walk under it.
Okay, let's take it out.
So, yeah.
So that, Dan, is that something you just take care of? And do you give that to Tony or to Barry?
Tony.
Okay.
Okay, now 520 Brook, Sean, you put that on the list and then you actually emailed later that it is on the removal list. Oh, that's
Yes, yes, it is. And I also mentioned the one on Park Avenue on Florence Street between Park and Holstead.
No, I missed, oh, that's down at the bottom. And that one's also on the removal list?
Correct.
Okay.
This is on Prospect, this tree.
Okay, that's 702.
I think I was told that it's been like that a long time and it's okay. I just was very concerned because it's, as you could see, it's way over here, you know?
Yeah, it's structurally really bad. I think I saw Jerry's email about that, saying that at some point it will have to come out. He wasn't
Yeah.
sure it has to come out now.
Right.
You thought it had developed a crack, though.
I don't remember that. I don't recall writing that as possible, but I
You did.
was concerned at that angle, and if it got windy, this could crack off. I don't recall seeing a crack in it.
Okay, maybe Dan, that should be inspected. You did write, at least I have down that you wrote that it had a crack in it.
I'll take your word for it, because
Okay.
that's why I write things, because I
I
won't
know.
remember everything.
I know. I mean, I went through 2 email accounts and all the old minutes of meetings we never had and my phone photographs to try and get this together. So we haven't, George, we have not had a regular meet because of the tree ordinance. We have not had a regular meeting since November. 640 East Boston Post Road on North Barry Avenue. This is one that I have been looking at for a long time. It's currently upside down, I think. It
Yeah,
was hit by a truck. Something drove like directly over it some months ago because the tire tracks were there a long time. It's now been kind of the mulch has been pushed back, but there's another shot of it too. It has a lot of signs of damage. There, it's got, that's all along the base, and I think it should come out. It's right at the corner. And we may as well take it out now because it's dying, and if it gets bigger, it'll be hazardous. So can we put that on the removal list?
I will follow up with Tony.
Okay,
Likely Monday or Tuesday, he's going to be a bit busy tomorrow. The
okay.
impending storm.
Oh, right. How bad's that supposed to be?
Bad.
Really?
Yeah,
Well,
tropical.
a storm on Tuesday?
Well, storm tomorrow, they're saying, 1 to 3 here, but if it looks like it's tracking southeast New York, New England, like but that's eastern Long Island, I think.
So
They're
we
going
might be okay.
see some more significant weather.
Yeah.
He might miss us. Hopefully, he'll miss us.
This
What's the
is the same tree, and it just shows that it's leaning in addition to all the other things wrong with it. Okay, then moving on to the next one, 7. It should be next, yeah. This is a dead tree. Needs to come out. It's at 208 North Barry. It was topped at some time in its life. We've actually sent a notice to that owner not to top our trees. But that needs to go on the removal list.
Do we do any follow-up? That was.
I don't know. That would be a question. I know. And that's a question for Sherry.
If we do see residents pruning our trees improperly, we are giving them, orders to remedy those violations to try and correct the behavior. I don't know how old or how long this has been in this shape. I mean,
It's been that way for quite a while. I think
Yeah.
certainly when Jerry did start that practice of sending out the violations, he said he was going to send one there. There's not much you can do with the top tree except stop cutting it.
Yeah.
And this one has died, so it's not a problem. We would want to replant in this area though, and we would like this owner to know that that's not to be done again. There are people who like that shape.
Yeah, there are several trees like that on Palmer Avenue.
Yeah.
Mhm. So if they could just be kindly, sensitively notified about what the rules are and that, the tree will be replaced and they may not prune the replacement.
Yeah. Attachment 8 is 512 Claflin. Claflin, it's about that, I guess. Is that 8?
Let's see.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
that
Tony.
tree is very dead and I saw it yesterday, I believe. Let me just check the address again on my phone, just to make sure it's the one I'm thinking it is. 512 Claflin. Yeah, yeah, that is a considerably large tree and it's very dead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Add to removal. Okay. The next one, I don't think we have a picture. It's from Gail, and it's a damaged tree in Harbor Island Park, or near Harbor Island Park. And
This is a
you
photo of that. I'm sorry, this is a photo of that tree.
Okay. Anyway, you subsequently, I guess after I sent the agenda out, told me that Tony has already removed that tree, so we can take that off the list.
Okay.
725 the Parkway, there is a decayed tree in the median, and I have 2 photographs of that. It's not.
Sorry, which attachment are we up to?
I'm sorry, 9C 1 and 2, which might be, those are the 2 that I added.
Okay.
So they may not be in order.
I could stop a share and then I'd have to go back into a share with something else.
Never mind. I sent it to everyone. I'll just tell you about
Yeah.
it. It's not obvious there's something wrong with the tree, but if you look at the base, there are a couple of space right down at the ground. There are a couple of like holes, and they're completely. You can just push a knife into them. Okay, so I guess I want it inspected, but probably it's a problem. So. Dan, can you put that on the inspection?
Yep.
Again, on the Parkway, you can tell where I live. The median at Southbury Avenue, and I took a photograph of the house, but I couldn't read the address. It's pretty obvious. There's a small dead tree. It was planted a couple years ago. This is attachment 9D. It's another new one. So, what happened to it is the trimmer. It's got trimmer damage all the way around it. So it's dead, and this is one of those training things, I think, problems for the Parks Department. They just can't do that. So that's for removal.
Why should the Parks Department be trimming trees like new trees?
They're not trimming trees. What they're doing is they're mowing on the median because that's parkland, and then they go around and trim things they couldn't get to with the mower.
I understand.
Yeah, and it's I mean, homeowners do it too, and it's one of the leading causes of tree death, tree
Yes.
death.
Okay.
That reminds me that Jerry was going to try out these rounds of sort of rubber or something mulch protectors that protect like rings, these donut things. I believe he ordered 5 or 10 or something. Dan, can you? Well, we need to follow up and find out if those were ordered and if they were placed on trees and which trees, because it's an experiment to see if they can help preserve the trunk, like protect the trunk from lawnmowers and weed whackers.
I'll follow up with Barry tomorrow on that.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Southbury Avenue. Okay, Gail, you reported a dead tree in the right of way. Is this on
What attachment?
it's not an attachment. It's just you sent an email about a dead tree in the right of way by the water treatment plant.
By the water treatment plant. Okay.
Doesn't remind you of anything?
I think there is a dead tree in the right of way by the
Okay.
water treatment On the
Well,
post
we'll
road.
find that one.
It's on the post road. It's very obvious. It has no leaves and it's dead. Needs to be removed and hopefully replanted, plant something else there. So that's removal, Dan?
It's on the Boston Post Road, right?
Yeah, Boston Post Road, right in front of the water treatment plant.
Okay, is it closer towards the entrance to the park or closer to the Little League fields?
Well, if you're looking at the length of that whole plant, it might be somewhere in the middle, maybe a little closer to the entrance to the park.
Okay, so kind of maybe, okay, I'll take a look.
You'll see it. It's the only tree that has no leaves. in the
Okay.
right way.
Okay, leaning tree at Fairway Lane in Orienta. I don't know anything about that except what I have written.
Fairway Lane, I think that has been resolved. I believe I got a notification about that.
Okay.
And I walked by today and I think that one was straightened out. Yeah, it was staked.
Oh, staked. Oh, good.
Yeah. It was a fairly newly planted tree and.
Okay, yeah, they'll respond to that.
Yeah.
Marlene, you said that there's a tree in Harbor Island Park facing the band shell that needs pruning rather desperately. That should, Dan, sorry, but that should go to Barry, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, Dan. Gail, 451 Nelson, leaning tree by the tennis court in Warren Avenue Park.
Yeah, I saw the email. I saw an email on that the other day, and I asked Tony to take a look at it.
Do you know what happened?
I don't know. It was only Monday or Tuesday this week.
Okay, okay, so we'll come back to that next one.
Yeah. That was by an email from Sam.
And now a big thing, the last one, because we've already talked about, Sean's already told us about the Florence one. On Waverly Avenue, Gail, I saw these trees dying last year, but they weren't quite dead. Waverly Avenue, the developer has several trees in a, I think it's a bump out right of way.
Yeah.
And 3 of them have died. According to Tony, it's the response, according to the site plan and the planning board, the owner needs to be notified to replace them.
But there was a question about how long that lasts. I don't know if that's in perpetuity or if that's just for the first 2 years.
Okay, so we didn't hear from Christy about that.
No, Kristen was looking into it.
So we'll have to come back to that.
Mhm.
Okay, violations. If you can go down to attachment 10.
Okay.
10. From Seeker. Is there a specific tree there? Oh no, this is just an email. It's about topping. I think these are handled other places.
It's a complaint about the trees by Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, but I actually, if you go down to 11, I actually photographed those before he wrote his email, and just so you can
Yes, I
see what
remember that.
happened.
Uh-huh.
And there are 4 of them. There's 4 pictures there. I don't know whether a violation, actually a violation did go, because that's attached also, attachment 12. But I don't know what happened, if they're leaving it alone. I just would like to know, so. Does
So,
anything
do you mind if I
usually
interrupt
happen in response to a violation, Dan?
I just didn't follow.
Bev, I think
I think
George
George.
wants to say, is it George or Sean? I can't tell who's speaking.
Yeah, can I just interrupt for a quick second? This is George.
Yeah,
I'm
hi.
sorry to do this. I know you've got a long agenda of these things to go through. I wanted to cover one thing, but I've got to leave at 8:30, and it's an offer to the village, if I may. We have some money set aside in the county for tree planting around the county. And what I thought I would do is offer to the village that you would send me a letter, me and Catherine Parker. Obviously, the tree committee would go through the village board ultimately to see if there are any places where there are county-owned land, because I know that's not easy. I mean, there's not a lot of county-owned land in the village. But if you could look through any place in the county-owned land where you think a tree should go, we would obviously pay for it, and we'd work with you, whatever kind of tree you wanted it to be.
Okay.
As we try to green the county, it wouldn't cost the village anything, but we would look for your recommendation or the village's recommendation on, where this may be.
Wonderful. May I ask you a quick question? Is the water treatment
Yeah.
plant part of the county?
Yeah, here's the thing. The county owns a water treatment plant. The county owns some land down at Harbor Island where that jetty goes out that covers the pipe. I think we've got some land in and around Guyan Creek. I'm not sure exactly. I'm sure back at the village offices, the maps will tell them where county-owned land is in the village. And then if any of those places are appropriate in your judgment for a new tree or trees, plural, ultimately have a discussion and then have the village, send me a letter saying we would request the following locations, ... And then I will do my best to try to deliver you a few trees. I don't think there'll be a ton of them because we don't have like the Bronx River Parkway going through the village, but we're happy to do our share if we can.
That's
wonderful,
wonderful. Thank you, George.
George, before you go, that we just
Yeah.
planted a lot of trees in the Boston Post Road right near the water treatment plant. Would that be considered your land? I mean, if so, can we recompense the village for the value of those trees?
Yeah.
And by the way, they're all tall, stately trees.
Yeah, I think what you'd want to do is go back to your land records and determine, where you put the tree. If it is on county property officially as opposed to village right-of-way, then, that would be legitimate. To be honest with you, I'd prefer to spend the money on planting a new tree, not just reimbursing for one that was already done. Then I can argue
we
that
just-
we added
We just
new
put them in.
trees.
We
But-
just put them in about 6 months ago.
Okay, well, I hear you.
Well,
But,
yeah.
and I'm not going to say no, but I just, I think the preference of what we're trying to do is not just reimburse other trees, but to try to add. But the first thing would be take a look at where you put the trees, take a look at your land records, and if in fact it is on county property, then it would be legitimate, for the county to pay for it. I have, obviously we all have limited amounts of money, and I'm trying to spread it all over the county. So, if you determine that's what you want to request, then make that the request. But I would just look at it more broadly, and instead of it just being a reimbursement for something you already did, if it can be something that adds, that would be preferred. But I'm not ruling anything out. It's up to you all to take a look at where it is, and you'd be in a position to know what was officially county land. But yes, the sewer treatment plant is owned by the county. It's how much right-of-way around it is ours.
Mhm.
And if you put trees on that parcel of it, then yeah, I guess it would.
Okay, George.
Yeah.
Thank you, George.
That's
Um,
wonderful. Thank you.
You
Very
had
good, guys. Sorry for the
mentioned
interruption.
send it- George, you said to send it to you, and I thought you mentioned another person.
Catherine Parker.
Yeah,
Catherine
Parker.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Send it to me and then a copy to Catherine Parker. And it doesn't need to be next week. Take your time, look at the options, and then communicate as you see fit. And if somebody wants to pick up the phone and call me first, by all means, do that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, George.
Okay, folks, thanks for letting me sit in. I
Well,
appreciate it.
George.
Stay
All
Okay,
safe.
right,
bye-bye.
good night.
Yeah, I think we might be able to use our geographic information system to identify county-owned property.
Wonderful.
Excellent.
That's nice.
Okay, so Nora, do we write a letter? Do you write a letter once we know locations?
I think he said you guys make a plan and that the Board of Trustees will write the letter at your recommendation.
Okay, so we send a recommendation to the board. Okay.
And we have a meeting on Tuesday, on Monday, and then we have a meeting on the 10th. And then we have just like a minor items meeting on July 23rd. No,
Okay.
the fourth Tuesday is a short meeting. I can't remember what the date is.
Okay.
But what we need to know first is the land.
Yep.
Where there's land, and then we have to look at the locations.
So maybe by August 10th, that might be good timing.
Okay.
Dan, can you look into that and let us know somehow what areas are county in the village?
Yeah, I think the county may, yeah, I'll check. I think the county may also own some property in and around Warren Avenue Park.
Ah,
It would be great to have a list of, the exact places, and then we could go scout out some spots that, see where trees are needed.
This is especially good this year because we don't have a huge planting budget.
Yeah, it's wonderful news. It's really, really great. Okay.
Okay. So we were on topping. And what happens when a violation goes out, especially with a tree, when all we're doing is saying, no, I mean, the remedy is not to do it again.
I can talk to our code enforcement officer who usually handles this and have her provide me an update, and I can
Okay,
use that to give you a general guide.
thank you. Get update. Okay. The next attachment 13 is something that happened fairly recently. Oh, well, that didn't show up so well, but it was one of our street trees that was planted. That's the one. A couple years ago, and we were going to put another tree on that property because they've lost several big ones in the right of way. And they topped it. I mean, they pruned it, you know.
Where is this, Beth?
It's on the Parkway at 717. They should receive a notice.
Dan,
And a fine, and a
And-
fine.
Do we do a fine the first time, or do we do the fine after if there's a second?
Jerry
violation?
told me Jerry told me he finds them. There is no second chance.
Oh, okay.
That's what Jerry told me. He did it on Henry Street. There's somebody completely clear cut one side of the tree, and he said he fined them. I'm not sure how much and whether or not he was paid.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, I have to imagine it's kind of the die is cast once you do something improper.
So, Dan, can you get a notice sent and a fine assessed? I guess
I'll
we added.
talk to Charlotte, our code enforcement officer. I don't know, do we have all we have right now is a picture. Do you know what time and date it occurred, or was it the homeowner who did it?
Well, it was a landscaping company or something. I walked by and I thought he was taking little tips off, and I thought, well, he shouldn't do that. But, you know, they were growing into the street. And then when I went by the next time, it was just so it was in the afternoon.
So, I mean, maybe I'll have Charlotte reach out because we have to know who the responsible party is in order for us to issue a violation.
Well, I'm sure the homeowner was.
wait, Dan, if a landscaper is working for a property owner, is it not the property owner's responsibility?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what happened.
Okay.
It was the landscaper.
So as long as we have the details of, where it's located, when approximately it happened, that's what I may, if you can. send
Okay,
me
well,
something.
if it's at 717 the Parkway, it happened within the last month, I think, probably a month ago.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you can send me something separate on that, I'll talk to code enforcement.
Okay. Okay, then 14, Stuart sent a photograph of a tree that was badly pruned. They're all over. I actually, farther down, but I'll say it now. Now, as I've done more and more pruning, I understand now why some of these, people don't know how to prune, but a lot of these trees, because they weren't getting pruned, they've been growing into the sidewalk and into the street and people's cars. And so they just come and they cut off the offending part of it. And so while they shouldn't do it, it's a result of no maintenance, no pruning maintenance being done on the trees when they're small, when they're growing.
Yeah, this one is on Palmer Avenue
Yeah.
near Sand Street, I believe.
Yeah. So we're doing much better, more extensive pruning now of the young trees. So perhaps this will improve. I know when I see trees that have been badly pruned, I cut off the part that was done wrong. I don't think there's anything else to do on that. He sent it to us though, and so we're aware of it. Other questions? This is still under maintenance. This has been going on for 2 years. The question of pruning, 3 years. The large elms, now that we know that they tend to drop their limbs, we had several examples of it, and it's very hazardous. And we're pruning the small ones, but some of them are larger. And because these elms, the particular type of elm that we planted has what, our consultant, Frank Budding, describes as chaotic growth pattern. And in the humidity, they take in a lot of water and then they just kind of explode and they drop major limbs. They need to be pruned, according to Frank. If they were pruned, and they're too large for citizen pruners to do it, if they were pruned, they would not be susceptible to this. And then when they get bigger, they're also not susceptible. But there's sort of
What
done.
item are you on, Bev? I'm sorry.
I'm on under other questions. It's not an attachment.
Okay.
Discussing. It's been something we've been discussing for, I think, 3 years. And I don't think anything's been done about it, and it's in writing. So if any tree does drop a major limb and anyone is injured, it's something the village knows about and didn't address.
Wendy Zolan this morning was telling me they think that either it was that, the tree swelling and limbs dropping, or maybe a tornado came by on Orienta, the part that bends at the end and goes towards Flagler. But a whole bunch of trees looked like, the tops were just kind of ripped off.
Oh, wow.
So it was either that, so much water that they burst and broke, or there was a little mini tornado there.
I think that latter is more likely because they don't tend to all do it in unison.
Yeah, so it was probably a tornado.
Yeah. That's too bad. Are the trees really ruined, or are they?
I didn't see them. She was telling me about them.
Okay.
Again, I'll try to check them out on a morning walk.
Okay.
That's on Orienta Avenue, going towards Flagler, somewhere around 7 Oaks Lane, in that neighborhood.
This happened recently?
Yeah, what was it, 2 nights ago, the heavy rain and the
Oh,
wind?
wow. Oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds like it, especially if it happened right after that. I think that's what, it's not rain that has been causing these trees to do the limb drop. It's been the humidity.
Oh, right, because there's nowhere for the moisture to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the leaves get so heavy, limbs get so heavy they fall, right?
Yeah, it's specific to this particular type of elm, which we no longer plant.
Right.
But
It's
Okay.
too late to prune them now. They had to have been pruned at an earlier stage to avoid this.
I don't know. He didn't say
I
that.
don't either.
I don't know the answer to that one, Laura. I mean, we now prune, well, we're not planting them now, but we're pruning the little trees when they go in, but we weren't doing that at the time these were planted.
Right.
And Frank's advice was that this was several years ago, that they should be pruned because that would relieve the weight and this would be less likely to happen. He indicated that when they get to be mature trees, it's not happening. I'm not sure why, but it's at one stage of their growth.
Actually, I think Jerry worked on a tree like that just on the right of way outside Sarah Newman. And it was kind of like a learning experience for me and Jason. And I think my husband was also there. My husband's a citizen pruner. And it was a perfect example. This tree was young enough that we could take down limbs. So
Okay.
to kind of thin it out, they ended up with a lot.
Yeah, that's what it needs. That's exactly what it needs. But
Yeah.
I don't know how to do it. So, and we have we have a list of elms that we've planted. It was about a 3-year period that we were planting them.
The thing is, we can't do it with our tools. Jerry has.
Yeah, you need those long.
Wall, yeah.
Yeah.
And he was able to do a beautiful job on it, but we don't have tools like that. It's kind of beyond our scope as volunteers to do that.
They need to be addressed. So
Yeah.
either Jerry can do it or we can get someone to do it. But I think,
Right now it's a prevention.
It's a yeah, absolutely. Okay, attachment 15, which is from Stuart. It's an email on several issues, mainly having to do with trees that were marked for removal at Fellows and at Guyan Drive. He disagreed with Jerry, and then Jerry's response is included in there. And the trees, at least the Guyan Drive one, has since been removed, so it's academic. But it's a differing philosophy. But we would choose it. Okay. And in that case, the Guyan Drive one was forked fairly low, and it was a silver maple, which is one of the junk trees that, tend to die at a fairly young age. So it created a huge gap, though. It just looks awful now because it was one of the few big trees in that circle we've planted there, but it's going to be another 30 years before we have big trees. Okay, attachment 16. Unless you want to look at this more. Are there any comments on it?
No comments.
Okay, 16. There's a photograph I thought that I sent of that too. Is there more to that?
Wait, for 16?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the resident was concerned, it might be this one. Yeah, that photograph.
Yeah.
That looks like it's strangling the trees. You don't want to strangle a tree, but in fact, because it's coming from two directions, the tree can grow. It also won't be cabled very long. I don't know who did that. I don't know whether we did or someone else, but that is actually, I believe, Sean, you know more about this than I do, but that's the approved way one of the approved ways.
Sean can't see it.
Oh.
Sean, we're looking at a tree that has a cable looping from the right with rubber tubing around the cable, and another cable looping from the left with rubber tubing around the cable.
But neither one of them is strangling the tree.
They're
Right.
both
They kind of overlap.
keeping it
Yeah.
straight from opposite.
I mean, that's legit. That's a good thing. I've done that to one of my trees, and that's a good thing. I can take a look at it if you want to send me the address. I think I know a little about that.
Okay, I don't think, unless it's in that email, I don't know that we have the address.
I think it is in the email.
Okay, I'll take a look. What street or what area?
There's a blue house on Delancey between Prospect and Palmer, it says. There's a blue house there, and it's in the right of way in front of that blue house. It's on the Larchmont side of Delancey, not the Mamaroneck side. Okay.
Okay, yeah, got it.
Okay, then we should assure this person. I like people who are concerned about trees, so we should assure him that after you look at it, that this is actually approved way of doing it.
Yes. Yeah.
Is it? By the way, I don't know if did you ever see? I don't know if you saw, but it must be a pretty big tree then, of course, right?
No.
It's not that big. It's not a recently plant. I mean,
Maybe
maybe
like a 4-inch caliper.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's all.
like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, maybe,
Yeah.
I don't know, 5 to 8 years ago it was planted.
Well,
something like that.
here's the thing. The rubber is good for about the first 5, 6, 7 years. But when it gets bigger, we got to cable it together. If it's a split,
It's
if one
not,
of
no,
those
it's,
Wilson type trees.
no, it's not that. It looks more to me, it's a single, it's just on the stem, and I think
I'll look at
that it's straightening the tree.
But if you could check it out, Sean, that would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
you.
Yeah.
And that should come off once the tree is doing all right.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we can
That's-
assure this
that's right.
person that
I
it
mean,
is okay.
in fact, when trees move a little bit, they get, from the wind, it helps the trunks grow much stronger. They need that little bit of resistance. That's why in the biosphere, trees are falling down at the end. There was no wind in the biosphere experiment years ago.
Oh,
Yeah, and trees need wind.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so they just grew like crazy and then they flopped over.
However, one thing that happened, it used to happen, I haven't seen it as much recently, but it used to be that when they were planted, It was often done improperly and the ground was not fill in and the tree would start to tilt over. And this is about that age. So probably.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Does anyone know about a grant with New York State that we applied for inventory, planting, and maintenance?
I'll follow up on that.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, fall planting. We have, at least at the moment, I'm not really convinced that it'll be there by fall, but the village budget for planting new trees is $30,000 this year. I'm grateful for it because we have tree spaces that we really need to put some trees. You know, we've either promised them. There are 5 sites on Mamaroneck Avenue. There are a number of places where we could put them. The 2000.
Oh, excuse me, Bev, you mentioned Mamaroneck Avenue, and I wanted to just bring up one question.
Okay.
Maybe Dan knows the answer to this. There are a number of trees on Mamaroneck Avenue that are marked with pink, and they look like perfectly healthy trees. Is that because they're going to expand the grates underneath them?
Where on Mamaroneck Avenue?
Like, for instance, in front of Don Hito, there's a tree that has a pink marking on it.
Bad.
Mhm.
It might
But
be
there are
about-
several. There wasn't just that one. I remember seeing it on other parts of the avenue as well.
Not that I'm aware, but I can, talk to Tony, maybe he knows something. I mean, we're not planning on, I don't think we're planning on doing much out there. Might have just been a utility marking. But I'll follow up with Tony.
Is it on, are those dots on the trees, Marlene?
They're on the trees, on the trunk of the tree.
That generally means the tree is to be removed when it's on.
Yeah, and this looked like a perfectly healthy tree, so that would be a real shock.
I can send Tony an email now and copy all of us.
Thank
Great. Thank you.
That was Nora.
Yeah, since I'm at my desk. Great.
Nora said she's going to email Tony.
I'll do that right now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nora.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you.
Well, we can do this now since we're Zooming, right? You don't have to wait till tomorrow to forget.
Okay, Marlene, thank you for bringing that up.
Sure.
Meanwhile, we had apparently there's 5 tree pits that were open and were supposed to be planted last fall, but if you recall, we didn't get the full planting because the nursery didn't have everything. So, I mean, that's an example of trees that I would like to be able to plant. Last fall, the total bill is attached as 17. And if you divide through the number of trees, it comes to $365 per tree in the ground. So that would let us plant, $30,000 would let us plant about 82 trees. That price could vary a lot. You know, there could be a huge demand for trees, or there could be nobody with any money to buy them. So, that's just a guess. But I would like to know when we need to put our list together for sites, because I know it has to go out for bid. Dan, do you know that?
So what I'd like to do is take a look at the bid to see if we have prices guaranteed for an additional year. If that's the case, we have a little flexibility, but honestly, the sooner the better, because if we have to go out to bid, it's 30 days to at least get something back and have an award. So
Okay.
working backwards, I think we want to be planting in November, which means that we have to have an award late September, early October, just to make sure that they have the inventory of what we need.
Yeah, what happened last
Are
year?
we going to be the trees, the locations that we identified on Stanley Avenue and, all those, that's all on the list for the next?
Wasn't
planting?
Stanley Avenue planted? I think it was.
I think so too.
Yeah. I'll tell you, Gail, I started to go through the list
Yeah,
and compare to where sites were actually planted. And I realized I had some notes from Tony. There, a number of the ones that were not planted actually had been, Tony said, needed to come off the list for various reasons, utilities or other things. Now, ordinarily, we would have put another site in there.
yeah,
So there were enough locations that had been ruled out anyway that we just didn't bother to replace, that I would rather just make a new list.
okay.
It's easier.
So we're starting from scratch, everybody's looking for,
Well,
places.
yeah, more or less starting from, we know a few things. We know there are 5 that are going to go on Mamaroneck Avenue. I don't understand about that train parking lot. I went over there. Dan, do you know anything about trees taken out around the train, along the river by the train parking lot? We got a very indignant email at the start of the lockdown. And
Not that I'm aware of, but I can check.
yeah, because I went over there a few weeks ago to try and figure out where they'd come out, and I couldn't see any sign of former trees. So
I wasn't sure, I'm not sure that email was about trees as much as it was about just plantings, like things, I thought it was a concern about plantings being removed and then
I don't know.
soil erosion. Was it actually trees?
I you know what? I don't know. Erosion was what she was saying. I thought it was trees because we're the tree.
And then a follow-up email said that it has regrown. So, I mean.
That definitely happened. Well, we actually could, I mean, there were places where we might be able to put trees. It's worth looking there. And of course, we're going to want to go to Rushmore because we'll get to that later, but we want to do some of, so we have some sites. I'm sorry?
Is that if you're talking about things that were removed and then regrowing back, that sounds a lot like invasive species. But
Yeah, by Columbus Park, by the bridge there, yeah.
okay.
Bev, the trees on Rushmore,
Yeah.
right near, I think it's Bank of America. And again, it's not a bump out, but those are trees that Bank of America planted. So we have the same question for them as we have for the Waverly Avenue, the Mamaroneck storage place, those bump
Okay.
outs.
I didn't know there was a bank on Rushmore, but okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking Richville. Never mind, because we were talking about trees on Richville.
Oh, yeah,
Sorry,
right, yeah.
not Rushmore. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I think I was told that those are the village, Jerry said those are the village responsibility.
Okay.
There's some dead ones and there's some 3/4 dead ones. And then I think there's an empty pit too.
Yeah.
Anyway, so rather than all of this, because 82 is actually not that many trees. I think that we should first look at these. And I have a list of people we promised trees to last fall. It was maybe 10, not that many, that didn't get them. So I think we should see what gets taken up with these locations before we then start fanning out looking for locations.
Okay.
But I will, maybe I should count these up and then let everyone know.
Yeah. How many more we need and how many locations?
Yeah. Another problem that happened with last fall's planting is that there were some areas that we've identified in which, and I went back and checked, we specified tall trees because they're fabulous. And each of the cases I know about are fabulous locations for tall trees. And I can only identify trees like if they have leaves or flowers on them. So when the fruiting trees started to bloom, several of what were supposed to be tall trees turned out to be red buds. So they're going to have to be moved. And then there's one that you found in front of Westchester Day also. So Dan, another question, when do trees get moved? It would be in the fall, but that doesn't have to be tied into the planting, does it? It could be just moved.
Yeah.
So should I send a separate list to somebody, and who should I send it to?
I think send it to the manager's office, and we'll follow up.
Okay, I'll do that again then. I I did in fact send it to Jerry, but you know, we've had a global pandemic going on, and as well as you know, an economic Armageddon. So I'll remind him.
Yeah,
Hey, Gail, if I could, or Beverly, if I could jump in here, Dan, that's a pretty expensive proposition to have to remove trees, and I've seen that too, Gail, or Beverly. And effectively, that's incompetence at the start.
I agree.
I don't understand that.
I know, I agree.
We've been talking about getting some system together for preventing that happening in the future.
There is a system, it just didn't work because the trees
Right.
are in fact tagged by species and they're given a list, you know, the planting list of where to go. That's how they know what locations to go to. That should be sufficient. But if you look at the invoice, you know, the location that one of them were stuck. My next door neighbors love their red bud, and so I just can't take it away from them. But for example, the list, if they'd gotten an oak the way they were supposed to, they would love that too. But now they've bonded with it. But for example, the list we gave them said 617 the Parkway, oak or sweet gum or something. And then when I looked at the invoice that we have right in front of them, it says 617 redbud.
Ooh. So shouldn't they compensate us then?
Yeah,
No,
Marlene, you're kind of freezing up there. Can you repeat that?
Oh,
I think she said, shouldn't they be compensating us?
yeah, if they did what we wanted them to do. Yes.
Well, if we're going to use the same landscaper, then maybe we should ask them to do that as part of this job. It might make them more alert to where they put, that's a good idea.
Mhm.
I think he likes working with this nursery.
Okay.
yeah. I mean, Barbados been, I think they've had the contract with us several times. Last year was the first time that first time in several years we did a furnish and install, where we had the nursery do the installation. In past years, we did a separate purchase and install contracts.
I remember.
But I mean, Barbados has always given us very good pricing on trees. Jerry, with his background in landscaping, especially on Long Island, has knows of and has worked with Barbados in the past as well. And typically, the trees that they've provided to us have been pretty good. I think the 2017 round of trees were pretty good. I think that everything I've seen from the 2019 trees, despite some of the hiccups in getting the ball rolling on the installation, were pretty good comparatively speaking.
Dan, we
Yes,
just
they were.
get them in the right place. The trees are good, but we need to really make sure the right species are going the right place. We need
Oh,
tall,
absolutely.
where there are no wires, and short ones under areas where there are wires. And
No, you're 100% correct. I was just commenting on, our experience with working with Barbados and the quality of what they've given to us.
right, but that's part of it, because didn't they do the planting?
Yeah, they did the planting.
So that's the
There
other
was a-
piece. One
yeah,
piece is the quality of the trees, and the other piece is that they're planting them in the correct places.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%.
Maybe if we can make them move the ones they did wrong, they'll remember.
Is there an inventory of what was incorrectly planted?
Yeah, there were, I mean, I found 3 that were incorrectly planted.
Okay,
I didn't check the whole list, but 3 were pretty obvious
okay.
because I knew this.
Maybe they can make good on that.
Yeah, that would be great.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point, Marlene. In other words,
Okay. Should we
if
continue?
we take them up, if we dig,
What's that, Sean?
Let me take a
well,
look
if
at
we
the
dig them up,
contract to see
if
what it
we
provides
if
for.
we leave them, maybe they can plant 3 or 4 trees or 5 trees for free next time. In other words, to dig a tree up and
I want
replant it,
trees, yeah. These locations really, we have so much trouble finding good locations for tall trees.
yeah,
And
that's true.
these locations are just fabulous ones, and they've got little red buds in them. So they really.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. And I really don't like redbuds.
Also, I have to say it's the tall trees that provide the most shade and cooling for people walking down the street, enjoying walking in the village, enjoying biking in the village. The tall trees that cool the air and provide the shade.
Great point.
So we want as many as we can have.
Yeah. So we really do want to move, and we'll put them in. I mean, I don't love redbuds either, but they're good street trees, and we're really pretty hard up for, and we're trying to mix up species, and so we're going to have redbuds.
Okay,
The final thing is that I would like the planting crew. We couldn't even find documentation. That invoice has the list on it. We don't have documentation of where trees went in other years. And I think that we should require whoever does the planting to give us that final list of sites. And also if there are trees left over, which there often are because people come out of their houses and start shouting that they don't want them. We should know whether they've been put in the park or taken to a nursery, what's happened to them.
that should be part of the request for proposals, no? The RFP?
No, I guess. Should it? Would that go into an RFP?
I think so.
Yeah.
That's part of what they are being contracted to provide.
Okay. Okay. Whichever word. I will say that having the nursery do the planting, I was very happy with, except that they put the wrong trees in the wrong places. But we've had years when we've waited for other contractors to do it. We've had the trees sitting out for a week or two or three even sometimes. And this way they just put them right in the ground as soon as they got here.
And I believe we have a warranty when they plant the tree, when it's their tree and they plant it. I believe it comes with a 1-year warranty, no? It's sort of standard in the industry.
I don't know.
I think that's what we put in the contract. I mean, I think we have a pretty good contract in terms of the, when we try to, the trees we select, the planting procedures as well. So
Right.
we're pretty thorough on that.
Right, good. Okay, are we up to this next one, Beth?
We are. Oh, no, well, we will be. I actually have some things that don't have attachments first. Let's just go down
Okay.
the list. A tree inventory update. It was supposed to be budgeted for next summer, I guess. And it was cut from the budget. Whenever it was supposed to happen, it was cut from the budget because there's just not very much money to go around.
This summer?
This summer, next
Yes,
summer.
hopefully it could be next summer,
Yeah, it would be nice to be next summer.
hopefully.
We'll see how the budget goes. It's money.
Yep.
But you should know, all of you, that the inventory that we were hoping to get is not going to happen this summer. And as I mentioned earlier, we have the sort of beginnings of a significant tree list. We need to start building on that. I guess I should send that out. And we also need to figure out, I guess, how people would put a tree. We need to tell people how to put a tree.
What do you mean how to put a tree?
If someone knows of a tree that should be considered a significant tree in the village, how do they let us know?
Okay,
There are like 3 or 4 or 6 on the list now, and just Sarah and I put them on, but that's not really a system.
okay.
Okay. So that's something that we're still working on. That's new business.
Is this the Orienta site that was cleared?
Yes,
Harbor Island Park?
yes. That is what it looks like after the clearing, and Tony then sent us a lot, and then we have a series of photographs he sent of the trees, which, I mean, I looking at the trees, it's pretty obvious why they had to come out. I think the biggest problem here, though, is that he just did it, apparently, and Jerry didn't know about it. We didn't know about it. That's a lot of trees to come out without anybody knowing about it. The question is, does he know that he should at least go through Jerry before doing something like that? He responded to a resident.
Tony was supposed to be on the call. Tony was supposed to be on the call tonight, but he was not. So whatever. We still need to hold him accountable for that.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously it was done, but it was not done. It should not have been done that way because nobody knew about it. And for single trees too, a major tree, or in this case, a clear cutting, shouldn't just come down. It really, it needs to be, people need to be made alert of it. Jerry needs to know about it as a minimum, but.
Yes.
In the replanting in this area, we need to plant a different species.
I don't know what these are. We had a little discussion on that. We need some trees that are can tolerate aerosol salt, I think, more than soil salt. They're not along a street. Occasionally there is saltwater flooding, but I don't think that's as frequent a problem as the aerosol. And I've discovered
I think they can
trees
be quite large too, because I don't think that area has a lot of people walking around.
I think it was 10 trees.
Yeah, I mean, and we could put really large ones there.
Yeah, we could put, oh, I see what you're saying. Yes, we could.
No,
It'd be
but
great.
here's the problem. Here's the problem. When we plant tall trees, we space them out much further than these trees were spaced out. When trees grow very close like this, they tend to grow tall and spindlier because they are all competing for sunlight. Plus, these were not the correct species to be planting right by the water. Well, it looks to me like they just grew on their own, like they were kind of weed trees. So we won't be able to get as many trees in when we plant. If we want to plant tall trees, that is what we want to put in because there are no wires there. So
Right.
We
But
have
you're right, Marlene, in that we can put some really great big trees as long as we find species that will thrive in that area.
Yeah, and we have.
I will say that the rumor I heard is that the resident didn't want those trees blocking their view.
That sounds right.
Yeah,
I heard that rumor too, but the photographs certainly justify taking them down.
Colleagues, I think the sycamore tree, you go down the streets in Rye, New York. I've seen streets lined with sycamores, and they do famously. I know London Plains is the preferred choice there, but we need to consider sycamores. They're a great street tree, and they can really handle a lot of stuff.
We have to look into how they deal with the salt spray from the water, the aerosol, as Bev mentioned. But that's a great suggestion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. You're talking down at the beach. Sorry.
We'll look into that.
Yeah,
I like
I'm talking about the
sycamore is an interesting idea, though. Generally, as a species, I think it's susceptible to something, which is why it's the native. London Plain is not, and it's not susceptible to whatever the pathogen is.
Okay.
On the other
but
hand,
you're talking down.
London Plain doesn't host any wildlife, so.
Can I suggest that at a next meeting, we discuss a little more specific, we all research some trees and what we think might be appropriate to plant in this area? And then have that on the agenda for the next meeting.
Okay.
Can you guys consider also the American linden tree? The American linden tree is stunning.
I know, it's gorgeous. And I actually, one of the residents who had requested a tree and didn't get one, we had a long conversation because he wanted a number of things that we weren't going to plant. But he then said, what about a linden? And so I was thinking that might be worth doing. I've heard that they have softer wood than some of the trees we're planting, but I don't know that it's, a lot of cities like Cambridge and use the street trees, and they're gorgeous. Okay, sycamore. Why don't we find out about lindens too, and if they're okay.
All right.
I'll look into that.
That would be great. That'd be great. I'm concerned about how soft the wood is. That's the main thing, how they would hold up to wind. So,
Okay. Moving right along.
Where did we go?
We were at attachment 20.
Oh no, I haven't gotten there yet. Guidelines, tree inventory. Oh, the next thing actually, which is not an attachment, was, again, this is holdover, is the idea that we need to draft guidelines for the planning board and then meet with them and explain what it is, because they, in most cases, if there's a site plan that comes in, they'll make tree recommendations and they don't know. So we should, that's been an open item for us and we should try to move ahead on that.
Well, they usually work with Susan Oakley, so probably working with her would be helpful too.
Oh, okay. And why do they always do honey locusts then?
I don't know. That would be, but I would talk to Susan too.
Okay.
Do you
No,
know Susan Oakley, Bev?
What?
Do you know Susan Oakley? Would you,
Sort of.
can you reach out to her?
Yeah, I could do that, definitely.
Okay.
I mean, she was on the tree committee when I joined it, so I know her a little bit.
Okay, great.
For the planning board. Anyway, because they always, I mean, these developers always put in honey locusts, which are nice trees and they survive and they have this nice dappled shade, but they don't have a deep shade. And I know that the developers like it because they, you can see their gorgeous signs when you go by, and I'm not really as interested in that as I am in a shaded walk. Okay, now new business, citizen pruners. It's actually attachment 8. I had some questions on pruning techniques. I don't know that we can answer them here. I was hoping Jerry would be here. One is these elms, attachment 18. Do you have that, Gail? They with their crazy growth pattern. I've been confronted with some of them. I cannot figure out how to get in on the little ones. They grow in such wild ways that you can't cut them.
Yeah.
No space to cut them properly.
I don't have attachment 18 with this. They grow very dense. It's true. And you really need that tool.
Well, no, it's not even that tool. It's that they snake around sometimes.
Oh.
If you get them young enough, maybe that doesn't happen. But I would like some guidance on how to prune them. And just at the
So
street
how
level.
about we schedule a training with Jerry specifically
Yeah.
on that
When it's cooler.
when it's cooler, maybe in September?
Yeah, that would be nice. Because then I also prune, well, you probably don't have this one, which is attachment 19. These are the two that I said I would send today, and I did.
I mean, I have it, but I'd have to stop the screen share.
Okay. Well, in your leisure, you might want to look at it, because I was doing Soundview Avenue, Soundview Drive, the one near me. And I came across a tree that had no collars around the branches. We're supposed to prune them.
I'm going to try to find this.
We're supposed to prune them where the collar begins, the narrow part of the collar, because then it gets all of those healing properties. This tree had none. So I didn't know where to prune it. I just did it, but I don't know what species it is, but it must be some.
Is it number 19, Bev?
It's attachment 19. It came out today, though. It was one of the late ones.
Is that it?
You don't have anything up. You have 20 up.
Oh, you don't see this? Okay. All right. Yeah, it's too complicated for me to share this. Sorry.
Anyway, it's there, and I guess I wanted to ask Jerry anyway, so I'll get it in with the regular attachments next time.
Okay.
The thoughts about unauthorized pruning I gave you. I have what I feel is a much greater insight as to why people do it, and I think that should be an incentive to us to really try and stay on top of the small trees as they go in, and not the first year, but starting after that, just keeping them shaped so they don't grow into the sidewalk, they don't grow into the street. And also as they get bigger, you want to raise the canopy. At some point, we won't be able to reach it. Can't take all the branches off because they need to make the sugar. But that's what I was talking about when I said you have to come back to them. I said initially I wanted to keep them out of the out of the sidewalk and the street, goes laterally. But eventually, we want the canopy to be lifted. So trucks going by don't knock them off. And you have to keep it balanced, so you can't have them all coming out, sideways on the right of way. And we do need to compile this list of authorized citizen pruners. It would be helpful if people like me would get registered with the police. So,
I think I'm the only one who's done that. Come on,
Yeah.
people.
yeah, we all have to do it.
No, I
Yeah,
did
I'm
it.
next.
Fine.
You got yours, Marlene?
Yep.
Oh, good. for
Okay.
you. So 2 of you.
You got Marlene. Marlene, you got fingerprinted. You got fingerprinted.
No,
again?
no, they didn't. I don't think they fingerprinted me.
They just take a photograph
Yeah.
and they issue you a badge with a lanyard thing, and
Yeah, no, I've seen you flash yours. It's very impressive. It's
that's
just,
right.
the burden of actually walking into the station and spending 3 minutes while I get a permit is an ID is.
Well, the
it's more
officer
than I can handle.
was very pleasant about the whole process.
I'm sure they're fine. I just haven't done it. So this is an incentive. This is as much to me. This is to those of us who haven't done it. This is a sounding. Sean, you got to go do it. We need to
All
get.
right, let's get those done before the next meeting. How's that?
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough.
Wendy also, and Steve. Steve is now a citizen pruner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, now we've already talked about the clear cutting on Rushmore Avenue. Procedure needs, there needs to be some procedure about taking.
Mhm. Any suggestions about a procedure?
We could start by telling Jerry.
That's right.
It should be in writing. There should be some document or something.
Yeah, yeah.
It
And
should be in the
maybe
tree
we should
law.
have a certain amount of time. It was not an emergency. Nothing was about to fall on
No.
the house.
Yeah. Yeah, it is in the tree law. Let's not change the tree law.
No. No. No.
But
No
but
changes,
Yeah,
no
good-
changes. We like whatever it
point.
says.
wasn't that public land though? Public trees?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was done by a village employee, so it didn't violate anything. It's just that no procedure was followed.
So the question is, what should the procedure be?
Okay,
And
start
what's
by
the
telling
time
Jerry. Yeah. We need to talk to Jerry about what procedure would work from his point of view.
Okay, maybe next meeting.
Next
Yeah.
meeting.
Okay.
We applied for I don't know what TD is, but Green Street's grant application and it's attachment 21 was not awarded. So that's all we need to know about it.
Okay.
Then 22, I found when going through other village codes, other municipalities' codes, they have a restriction on utility pruning. And I don't see why we can't have it because our trees are being destroyed. And, we wouldn't even have to have this one, but they don't, nobody needs to come in and just shear all the branches off one side of a tree because at the top, it might be from the, from the top wire. They do it. I mean, they do these horrible things. I think they bid it out and they take the cheapest bid. And then these people just go out with their chainsaws and cut the branches. So I don't want to change the tree law, but I do think we should give some thought about putting restrictions on what Con Ed does. They should be responsible.
Let me talk to legal about this because this was an issue, 12 or 13 years ago. I recall that New Rochelle had tried to regulate the Con Ed's ability to maintain or clear or cut trees on the public right of way. And there was a major lawsuit about it and
Right.
Con Ed prevailed. And I think it was even New Rochelle was required to pay Con Ed's legal costs.
Right.
My guess is this may be crafted in a way to avoid that, but let me talk to legal about that.
Thank you. That would be great. And then I have this note, which I must have picked up from an old agenda, future protocol for hazardous tree assessments. I'm not quite sure what I meant. Does anyone else have any ideas?
All the way at the top here.
It's at the bottom of the agenda. We're really almost finished, people.
Yeah.
Down at the bottom, future protocol for hazardous tree assessments.
Hasn't that been covered in our ordinance though?
Probably.
Yeah.
It is. Okay. It's in the ordinance. Thank you. It is. It's exactly there.
Is the
Yeah.
ordinance about private trees or public trees? And what is this future protocol notation about private trees or public trees?
This doesn't specify it. The ordinance specifies private tree assessments.
I think this was referring to that clearing. I think that's how this got on here, possibly,
Okay.
no?
I don't know. I don't think so, because I think this is from an old agenda and the clearing happened
Okay.
after
Fall
that.
tree walk. We could plan a fall tree walk. I don't know if it will happen now. Who knows, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's outdoors.
It's outdoors. Sheldrake, we've had Joyce Kleinman doing walks. Sheldrake Environmental Center is doing outdoor programs for small groups with wearing masks, with physical distancing, or for families, that are already together. They don't have to physically distance,
Yeah.
obviously. So I don't see why we can't have a fall tree walk. We might want to consider having a registration for it and limiting the number.
That's a good idea. Oh, but people won't register. I'm sure they won't register. We'll end up with the tree
Yeah.
committee.
Well,
I don't know. I think people are looking to do.
I don't think we're gonna have to worry about limiting the number though. That would be a happy problem to have.
That's
Yeah.
true. Okay, so I think we should plan a fall tree walk. I think we
Um,
should do it.
I-
No more than 50 people are
Okay.
allowed.
No more than
We've never had
50.
50.
It
The
would
only
be
time we
amazing
had
if we got
20
50.
The only time we had more than 20, we got an entire Boy Scout troop. So
Okay, so for a fall tree walk, dates, does anybody have a calendar with holidays and stuff?
yeah, what are the Jewish holidays? That's always the thing we have to
And,
remember.
there are a lot of them. And also, Nora, any days where there are village events we don't want to conflict with?
I don't think there's anything scheduled for right now.
Yeah, there are no events.
Right.
I think, yeah, Yom Kippur is September 27th, so starts then. So Rosh Hashanah would be in the Friday the 18th. So why don't we skip September?
Okay,
October's really nice time to have a tree walk.
yeah, it is. Early October would be lovely.
A weekend in October, Columbus Day is, of course, that weekend we don't want, which is the 10th, 11th.
Right.
Otherwise,
17th?
What day of the week is that?
it's a Saturday.
Saturday or Sunday the 18th or Saturday the 17th?
Yeah, we could do that. We could do Saturday the 17th and do the 18th for a rain day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, if you can, I'll just jot that down and I'll ask Joyce about it. Jocelyn.
For afternoons, I think those are better.
Afternoons?
Yeah.
Well, what time are you thinking, like 2 o'clock?
1 or 2,
o'clock?
1 o'clock, 2 o'clock.
Okay, 1 o'clock. Oh, you know what? Jocelyn won't be able to do it on a Saturday, but I can ask.
Ask.
Sorry,
okay,
what
Sunday
was the date again? October 17th?
17 or Saturday or 18, but the afternoon if possible.
1 o'clock PM tree walk. Okay, I will look into it.
We could also ask her about October 24, 25. That's usually really nice weather too.
Okay, will do. The trees will be gorgeous then. Okay. Okay.
Okay, I think like that's it. When are we, how do we know about a next meeting, Nora, since we're
We're-
getting,
we're-
I think it's on the calendar. Hold on.
I think we're going back to our normal Thursday evenings. This was just an anomaly due to some conflict with
I'm
village
so,
meetings.
because nobody had had a meeting for so long.
I think we're back to the fourth Thursday of the month, which would be the fourth Thursday in August, which is what? That would be the 27th,
27th, you're right.
August 27th, but I'll probably, sadly, I'll probably be around.
Yeah,
I'm usually not, but, I probably will be.
It's
yes.
scheduled. It's
I'm probably going to be taking my daughter to college, so.
Oh, no.
Oh, wow.
Big deal.
That's
So I don't think I'm going to make that meeting.
Could
Yeah,
it,
me,
what's
me
that?
too.
Me
I don't think I can make I can't make, that last 2 weeks in August, I want to be up in Old Saybrook again, sorry.
Oh,
But can we do it by phone? Can I call in by phone?
Yes.
Yeah. How about the 20th? Could we do the 20th, Nora?
The BAR is meeting that night. We could check.
I can
Do
do
we
the
ask Sally?
17th if I,
Do you want me to ask Sally now?
If it,
But I
I'm
think
kind of late. I hate to bother her
No,
now.
I'll just email her and she'll see it tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, that would be
Okay.
great. Thank you.
Okay.
I mean, Sean, you'll still be up there and you can still call in, but at least we'll get Marlene.
yes.
Yeah,
Anytime you do it.
I have a better chance. I don't have the exact date that we have to drop her off yet. They haven't given it to us, but
Where's she
I have a
going?
better
Yeah, what-
chance. She's going to
what-
University of Michigan, Ann Arbor.
Oh, wow.
Very
Okay.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
A big Stephen Ross endowment school.
That's right.
That's right.
The Ross School of Business. Yep.
That's right.
Okay.
That's our agenda. A lot of things have to roll forward, but we got a lot of things off the list too. And I'm very grateful to you for sitting through all that.
Well, thanks for putting this
I-
agenda together. That was a monster.
I want to publicly thank,
Excellent.
totally. That was quite an agenda to put together. That was a lot of work. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Well, thanks for being such a great committee. So,
And Dan, thanks to Dan too for being on board.
Yes.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
Nora.
and Nora,
And Nora
Everybody-
and
Sally.
Sally.
And Sally.
And
And
Sally.
John, right?
We all work together, yep.
okay.
All
I
right,
think it's a
so
great committee.
I make a motion that we end the meeting. It's 9:29.
Move.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Be well,
All right.
Thank
everyone.
you.
Okay, bye.
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 Bye-bye.
Bye.